This golden god called us barbarians. Now he's choking on swamp muck, trapped inside his own suit. I had to cut him out with a crowbar and dump him into a reeking, greasy loader. He's puking his guts out in terror, while I am about to die protecting this useless, whining sack of slime from an army of monsters. Welcome to hell. Chapter 1, The Fall. The dropship Chimera screamed through the atmosphere of Tartarus 4 like a bullet punching through wet concrete. Colonel Jack Stone braced himself against the troop bay bulkhead, his calloused hands gripping the overhead rail with the casual familiarity of a man who had made 100 combat drops and survived every one of them. The hull shuddered violently as another pocket of superheated air slammed into the reinforced plates hard enough to rattle his teeth in his skull. Beside him, Sergeant Maria Vasquez checked her rifle mount for the third time in as many minutes, her movements mechanical and efficient. Stone respected that she did not waste breath on small talk during insertion. The mission parameters were simple on paper: reach the crash site of a Council transport 40 kilometers southeast of Site 0, secure the Cascade prototype before the Kryn Empire got their claws on it, and get out alive. The reality was always more complicated. Stone had seen enough classified briefings to know what the Cascade could do in the wrong hands: entropy manipulation, weaponized physics that could collapse a star system into a singularity if mishandled. The kind of weapon that made nuclear warheads look like firecrackers. In the center of the troop bay, suspended by magnetic locks that held it half a meter off the deck, hung the golden Aegis exosuit. And inside it, Observer XAR. Stone's jaw tightened as the alien's synthesized voice crackled through the comm system again. This level of atmospheric turbulence is unacceptable. The vibration frequency is causing interference with my neurosensor calibration. I must formally protest this method of deployment as inadequate for personnel of my clearance level. Stone did not bother responding. He'd been dealing with Council observers for 3 years now, ever since humanity had clawed its way into the galactic community through sheer bloody-minded refusal to die. They were all the same, arrogant, sterile creatures who thought the universe was a laboratory that could be controlled with the right equations and enough shielding. XAR was worse than most. A Tolani bureaucrat who treated the loss of an Omega-level prototype like a filing error rather than an existential threat. The pilot's voice cut through the cabin. 10 seconds to dirt, Colonel. Brace for impact. Stone's fingers found the mechanical watch on his wrist, the old habit grounding him as the numbers ticked down. He could feel the Chimera's engine screaming in protest as the pilot fought to bleed off velocity without turning them all into a crater. The deck lurched sickeningly, and then with a bone-jarring crunch that sent sparks flying from stressed welds, they hit. The ramp dropped with a hydraulic hiss and the smell of Tartarus 4 rolled into the troop bay like a physical assault: sulfur, rot, and something sharper that made Stone's sinuses burn even through his helmet filters. He was moving before the ramp fully extended, his boots hitting the mud with a wet squelch that spoke of ground that was not quite solid. Vasquez was already past him, her rifle up, scanning the gray-brown fog that clung to the sorrow swamps like a funeral shroud. Behind them, Engineer Sparky Lee was cursing, a steady stream of creative profanity as he manhandled the mule rover down the cargo ramps. The ancient hydraulic loader looked like it had been assembled from spare parts and spite, all pitted metal and leaking gaskets. But Stone knew better. The mule was older than half his squad, and it still ran when fancy anti-grav sleds died in a stiff breeze. Observer XAR floated out of the Chimera last, the Aegis suit's anti-grav keeping him precisely half a meter above the fetid surface of the swamp. The golden armor gleamed obscenely in the dim light, a perfect, untouched thing in a world of filth. Stone watched the alien's helmeted head swivel, taking in the landscape with what he assumed was disgust, though it was hard to read emotion through that much technology. The atmospheric composition is 12% more toxic than the preliminary survey indicated, XAR announced, his tone carrying the precise disappointment of a health inspector finding violations. This discrepancy places undue strain on my filtration systems. I will need to file an amendment to the hazard assessment. Stone checked his chronometer and bit back the first 3 responses that came to mind. The Kryn Empire had landed heavy armor 6 hours ago, and they were moving fast toward the crash site. Every minute spent listening to the alien complain was a minute closer to losing the cascade. We re 40 clicks from the beacon, he said, his voice flat and final. No time for calibration. No time for paperwork. If the KRNS get there first, your filtration systems will not matter because there will not be a council left to file reports with. XAR's suit rotated to face him, the faceless golden helm somehow conveying offense. Colonel Stone, I must insist on proper protocol. The Aegis systems require a minimum 20-minute synchronization period after atmospheric insertion. Failure to comply with safety standards could result in reduced payment for this operation and formal censure for. Stone closed the distance between them in 3 steps, planting himself directly in the alien south hover path close enough that his mud-spattered boots were inches from that pristine golden surface. He looked up at the helmet and let every year of combat, every scar, and every drop of blood he shed harden his voice into something that cut through bullshit like a plasma torch through tissue. Listen close, observer, Stone said, because I'm only saying this once. The KRNS do not care about your safety standards. They do not care about your protocols, and they sure as hell do not care about your censure reports. If they get the cascade before we do, they turn it into a weapon that crack this sector like an egg, and your council will cease to exist. He tapped his chronometer. So you can float there and complain about vibration levels, or you can do your job and help us stop that. Choose fast. XR's suit hung motionless for a long moment, the anti-grav humming softly. Then the alien's voice came back, colder if that was possible. Very well, Colonel. But I will be documenting this exchange in my official report. Stone did not dignify that with a response. He turned away, already scanning the perimeter of their landing zone. The Sorrow Swamp stretched out in every direction, a bleak landscape of liquid mud, skeletal trees draped in gray moss, and pools of stagnant water filmed with rainbow sheens of chemical decay. The horizon was lost in fog, and the sky was a uniform dirty gray that made it impossible to tell where clouds ended and atmosphere began. This was a death world in every sense of the term, a place where nature itself was hostile and the local ecosystem had evolved to kill anything stupid enough to visit. Behind him, Sparky was coaxing the mule's engine to life with a series of percussive maintenance strikes that sounded like he was beating it with a wrench, which, knowing Sparky, he probably was. The diesel coughed, belched a cloud of black smoke, and then settled into a rhythmic chugging that Stone found oddly comforting. There was something honest about an engine you could hear and smell and fix with a hammer when it broke. Vasquez had moved to the perimeter, her rifle tracking slowly across the fog line. Nothing yet, Colonel, but the thermals are shit in this soup. Could be a whole KRYN battalion out there and we would not know until they started shooting. Stone nodded. That was the reality of Tartarus. The sensors that worked so well in clean vacuum and controlled environments went half-blind in this toxic stew. The Council had mapped this world from orbit, logged its dangers, and promptly classified it as unsuitable for colonization. Which made it perfect for hiding things you did not want found. All right, he called out. Form up on the mule. We moving in 5. Sparky, get that piece of junk ready to roll. Vasquez, keep your eyes open. The fauna here makes the KRNS look friendly. As if summoned by his words, a new sound cut through the ambient burble of the swamps, a high-pitched keening that made the hair on Stone's neck stand up. He knew that sound from the briefing files. Thunder leeches. They came out of the fog like a nightmare given wings, flat, ray-like creatures the size of dinner plates with translucent membranes that let you see the bioluminescent organs pulsing inside them. They moved in a swarm, dozens of them, their flight paths erratic as they homed in on electromagnetic signatures. Stone started to shout a warning, but the leeches were not interested in the humans or their chemical-powered gear. They swept past Vasquez, ignoring her entirely, and converged on Observer XAR. The alien's voice rose in pitch for the first time, losing its bureaucratic monotone. Fascinating. These appear to be a previously undocumented species of atmospheric parasite. Note the specialized sensory organs along the weight. What are they? They re-eating your shields, Stone said flatly. Get that suit powered down. Now. The leeches had covered the Aegis in a living carpet, latching onto every exposed power node and emitter port. Stone could see the suit's status lights flickering as the creatures drained energy with terrifying efficiency. XAR was trying to activate defensive protocols, but every system he engaged just drew more leeches, like blood in the water. Impossible, XR's voice was climbing toward panic. The Aegis reactor has a terawatt output capacity. These organisms cannot possibly drain, get them off. Get them off. The reactor is in cascading shutdown. Stone was already moving, but there was nothing to shoot, the leeches were practically wrapped around the alien, and any weapon fire would just hit XAR. He watched the suit's anti-grav field flutter once, twice, and then die completely. The Aegis weighed half a ton without power. Observer XAR dropped like a stone. The golden suit hit the mud face first with a wet crunch that sent a spray of filth in all directions. The impact was so heavy that Stone felt it through his boots. The suit sank 6 inches into the liquid surface, pinned by gravity that was half again Earth normal and armor that had suddenly become a prison. Vasquez was laughing, a sharp bark of sound that she cut off quickly, but not quickly enough. Stone could see XR's limbs flailing weakly inside the suit, trying to move metal that now weighed more than a small vehicle. The perfectly polished chitin that represented council authority was instantly coated in a layer of greasy brown sludge. Colonel. The suit is not responding. XR's voice had lost all its arrogance, replaced by something raw and afraid. The hermetic seal, I cannot breathe. The air circulation is offline. I need immediate assistance. Stone was already there, his hands finding the seams of the helmet. The electronic locks were fried, useless. He pulled the pry bar from his belt, a tool that had opened everything from cargo crates to alien doors over the years, and jammed it into the gap between helmet and collar. Do not, he grunted as he levered the bar, move. The metal screamed, a sound like nails on a chalkboard that made XR whimper inside his coffin. Then with a crack that echoed across the swamps, the seal broke. The faceplate popped loose and the thick, rotting air of Tartarus 4 rushed in. XAR gasped, a sound like he was drowning. Stone grabbed the edge of the helmet and wrenched it fully open, revealing the alien's face for the first time. Those huge faceted eyes were wide with shock, and the delicate lavender chitin around his mouth was heaving as he tried to process air that was nothing like the sterile filtered atmosphere he was used to. Sparky was there a moment later, his diagnostic tablet in hand, scanning the ruined suit. He whistled low. Yeah, she's dead, Colonel. Nano circuits are slag. The leeches fried everything that was not mechanical. You could maybe get life support back in a clean room with a week of work, but here. He shook his head. AI not happening. XAR's eyes fixed on Stone with desperate intensity. Colonel Stone, I require immediate evacuation. The Aegis is critical for my survival. My species is not adapted for high-gravity environments without exoskeletal support. I cannot accompany you to the objective. You must call the Chimera back and, no, Stone said flatly. The word hung in the air like a hammer blow. The Chimera's gone back to orbit, he continued, and it's not coming back until we have the cascade or proof it's been destroyed. You're the only one with the access codes, observer. Which means you're coming with us. Stone pointed at the mule, where Sparky was already lowering the rear ramp. That's your new ride. XR's eyes went even wider, somehow. That is a primitive combustion-powered vehicle. It lacks any form of neural interface or bio-safety protocols. I cannot possibly. Vasquez did not wait for him to finish. She reached down, grabbed the alien by his ridiculously thin arms, and hauled him bodily out of the ruined Aegis. XR weighed maybe 40 kilos in Earth gravity, less than a child. Vasquez carried him like a misbehaving kitten and deposited him without ceremony into the mule's cab. The alien's reaction was immediate and visceral. He recoiled from the hard metal seat, from the stench of diesel and old grease, from the very idea of this crude machine. Stone watched XR's face cycle through emotions, disgust, horror, and finally a kind of numb shock. Sparky hopped onto the mule's armor plating and leaned in through the open cab door. "Right, so here's how this works," he said cheerfully. "These are your controls. Left lever is throttle, right lever is hydraulics. Pedals are brake and clutch. Just like driving, except everything jams, so you gotta yank it hard when it sticks. Got it?" XR's four-fingered hands hovered over the levers like they were poisonous. Try it," he stammered. XAR reached for what he thought was the clutch but grabbed the throttle instead, yanking it forward with panicked force. The mule lurched violently forward, knocked over a rotting tree with a crash that sent birds, or whatever passed for birds here, screaming into the sky, and then stalled in a cloud of black smoke that made XAR double over coughing. Vasquez's laughter echoed across the comms. Stone climbed onto the running board of the mule and looked down at the alien. Observer XR looked back at him, and in those alien eyes Stone saw something he recognized: fear. Not the fear of filing incorrect reports or protocol violations, but the raw animal fear of a creature that had just realized it was completely out of its depth. "Welcome to Tartarus, Observer," Stone said, his voice carrying no sympathy. "Now drive." The convoy began to move deeper into the sorrow swamps. The mule bucked and shuddered over every root and rock, its rigid suspension transmitting every impact directly into XAR's spine. Stone could hear the alien's constant stream of complaints over the radio, whining about pain, about nausea, about the vibration that was making his internal organs feel like they were coming apart. They were making maybe 3 kilometers an hour, half the speed Stone had planned. Then Sparky's voice cut through the chatter. "Colonel, I'm picking up something on the emergency band. It's the transport's black box." Stone felt his gut clench. That should have been good news, but the tone in Sparky's voice said otherwise. "What's it saying?" Sparky was quiet for a moment as he filtered the signal through the interference. Then he looked up, and Stone saw his face had gone pale. "The KRNS are already there, Colonel. They're re-cutting into the hull. And Colonel, the cascade. It's damaged. It's going into an unstable phase. The readings are showing entropy wave emission." Stone's blood turned to ice. Entropy waves. That meant the device was starting to fail. And when something that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe failed, it did not just explode, it took reality with it. "How long?" he asked. Sparky checked his tablet. "The cascade's containment is degrading exponentially. At current rates, maybe 6 hours before cascade failure. After that, the readings stop making sense, but based on the theory, if it goes critical unchecked." Stone saw him swallow hard. "The whole system collapses. Every planet, every ship, everything within 5 light-years gets compressed into a singularity." Stone looked at XAR, still struggling with the mule's controls. The alien could barely drive straight, much less make it 40 clicks through hostile territory in time to stop the end of the world. But they had no choice. The cascade required council authorization codes to shut down safely, codes that only XAR possessed. "We move faster," he said. "Get that engine running hot, Sparky. I do not care if it melts. Vasquez, scout ahead and find us the straightest path. Observer, he locked eyes with XAR through the mule's windshield. "You going to learn to drive this thing right now? Because if you do not, millions of people are going to die. And you going to die with them." XAR stared back at him, and Stone saw the moment the reality of their situation finally penetrated that bureaucratic skull. The alien's hands tightened on the levers, and the mule lurched forward again, still jerky, still slow, but moving. The race against extinction had begun, and their only hope was a terrified alien who smelled like diesel and could not work a clutch. Stone checked his chronometer and started counting down the hours they had left. Chapter 2, The Green Hell. The transition from swamp to jungle happened without ceremony. One moment they were slogging through liquid filth, the next they were swallowed by vegetation so dense it blotted out what little sky remained. Stone rode on the running board of the mule, one hand gripping the roll cage, the other resting on his sidearm. The air had changed from suffocating humidity to something worse, a chemical thickness pressed against his lungs with every breath, like inhaling liquid poison. "Colonel, the rain's starting," Vasquez's voice crackled over the comm. She was 20 meters ahead on point, her thermal signature a ghostly blob through the haze. Stone glanced up. Drops of something clear, not water, never water on this hellhole, spattered against his visor. Where they landed, the composite material began to smoke. Acid rain. Of course. Because Tartarus 4 was not trying hard enough to kill them. "Button up," he ordered. "Seal your armor." "Sparky, how's the mule's paint holding?" From his perch atop the loader's engine housing, Sparky let out a creative string of profanity involving plasma torches and anatomically improbable acts. "Paint? Colonel, the paint's been gone since kilometer 2. We're down to bare metal now, and I'm watching it blister in real time. This acid's eating through the ablative coating like it's made of sugar." Stone leaned forward and rapped his knuckles against the cabin's side panel. Through the smeared windshield, he could see XAR hunched over the controls, those massive insectoid eyes locked on the path ahead with the rigid intensity of someone certain they were about to die. The alien's four-fingered hands trembled on the levers. The mule lurched forward 3 meters, stalled, coughed black smoke, and lurched again. Inside the cab, Stone saw XAR's head bob with the motion like a puppet with cut strings. The gearbox shrieked, metal grinding against metal in a way gears were never meant to touch. "Observer," Stone said, forcing his voice into something resembling patience. "Second gear. You burning the clutch." "I am attempting to," XAR's synthesized voice cut off as the mule bucked over a root system thick as a man's torso. "The interface lacks haptic feedback. I cannot sense the engagement threshold." Another grinding shriek. Sparky flinched like someone had dragged a knife across his spine. "Sweet mercy," the engineer muttered. "That machine's got a soul, an observer stick figure's torturing it to death." Stone checked his chronometer. 4 hours since they left the swamps. They covered 8 kilometers, a third of the distance they should have made by now. The math was brutal. At this rate, they reach Site 0 with maybe 30 minutes before the Cascade's containment failed. 30 minutes to shut down a device they barely understood, while a Kryn army stood between them and the control console. The odds were not good. The odds were never good. "Keep moving," he said. "Eyes forward. If we stop, we die." The jungle closed in tighter. What the briefing files had called vegetation bore no resemblance to anything that grew on Earth. The trees were not wood, they were flexible, fleshy things with surfaces like wet rubber. Their trunks oozed a clear sap caustic enough to pit the mule's armor where it dripped. Leaves hung in sheets, translucent membranes veined with mineral deposits shining metallic green and yellow. Razor grass sprouted everywhere, each blade thin as paper and sharp as a surgical scalpel. The stuff grew in clumps tall as a man, and when the wind blew, which was always, the grass sang. A high, keening whistle like steel scraping steel, thousands of blades vibrating in harmony. Stone hated that sound. Through the windshield, he watched XAR jerk the mule left to avoid a fallen log. The maneuver was clumsy, overcorrected, and sent the loader's rear wheels sliding sideways into a cluster of razor grass. The blade screeched against metal. One snapped off and pinwheeled through the air, embedding itself in a tree trunk with a solid thunk. "Careful," Stone said. Voice flat. "Those cut hydraulic lines." XR did not respond. Probably could not hear him over the diesel's roar and his own panicked breathing. A flash of light on the overheat indicator, red, angry, pulsing. "Sparky," Stone called. "We overheating?" "Little bit," Sparky admitted. "The acid's eating the coolant hoses. I'm bypassing what I can, but," the mule swerved again, harder this time. Stone grabbed the roll cage with both hands as the world tilted. Through gaps in the foliage ahead, he caught a glimpse of what had spooked XAR, a cluster of translucent sacs growing on a tree trunk, each one pulsing with internal pressure. Acid bloaters. The briefing had been clear, those things were pressure bombs filled with flesh-dissolving sludge. Step too close, make too much noise, and they de-rupture, spraying everything within 10 meters. XAR was driving straight toward them. "Vasquez!" Stone barked. "Bloaters, 11:00, 20 meters." The response was immediate. Vasquez's machine gun, Lucille, she called it, after some old Earth story, opened up with a sustained burst. Tracer rounds cut through the haze, each impact detonating a bloater in a spray of pressurized green. The explosions chained, one triggering the next, until the entire cluster had burst in a chemical fireworks display. The shockwave hit a second later. The mule rocked on its suspension, and thick green sludge splattered across the windshield like thrown paint. Stone heard XAR's strangled gasp over the comm. The alien had seen the stuff eat through organic matter in training vids, knew exactly how fast it dissolved flesh. "Eyes on the road!" Vasquez shouted. "And next time, Grasshopper, watch where you re-driving before I have to save your skinny ass again." Stone said nothing. Corrections would not help, XAR was already terrified. Adding more pressure would snap the alien like a twig. The convoy ground forward. Meter by meter. Kilometer by kilometer. The green hell lived up to its name, fighting them for every centimeter of progress. Vines thick as ship cables grew across the path, forcing Sparky to hop down with a machete and hack them away. The razor grass wrapped around axles, necessitating stops to cut it free. Twice, the mule high-centered on root systems, and Stone and Vasquez had to use pry bars to lever it free while XAR gunned the throttle. Each stop burned fuel they could not spare. Each delay gave the KRWNS more time to fortify Site 0. Each minute cost them. Stone's chronometer ticked down with the relentless precision of an execution countdown. "Colonel." Sparky's voice, tight with something between confusion and alarm. "You seeing this?" Stone followed the engineer's pointing finger. Through a gap in the canopy, maybe 40 meters distant, something large was moving. Multiple somethings. His thermal imager painted them in false colors, hot bodies against a lukewarm background, six-legged shapes the size of ground cars, moving fast. Crystal rippers. Stone recognized them from the briefing, apex predators covered in translucent crystalline needles grown from modified chitin. Beautiful, in a lethal way. The needles acted as prisms, refracting laser fire back at attackers. The KRWNS, with their plasma weapons and energy shields, had learned the hard way to avoid them. A pack of 7 rippers burst into full view, bounding through the jungle with the fluid grace of coursing hounds. They should have detected the squad by now, should have turned, circled, attacked. Instead, they ran past without slowing, their faceted hides throwing rainbow flashes as they vanished into the undergrowth. They're running from something, Vasquez said. Sheet D moved up to Stone's position, rifle tracking the Rippers until they disappeared. Prey does not run toward hunters. They run from them. Stone nodded slowly. His gut twisted with a cold certainty he'd learned to trust over 5 decades of combat. They're running from Site 0. But we have not heard, does not matter. Something up there scared them more than we do. He checked the tactical display, but it was useless, too much interference from the jungle. Whatever the KRNS woke up at that facility, the local fauna wants no part of it. The implication hung in the air between them. If the apex predators, creatures adapted to survive on a death world, were fleeing, what did intelligent beings stand against? Move faster, Stone ordered. I do not care how. We need to reach Site 0 before the jungle ended. One moment they were in claustrophobic greenery, the next they'd broken through into open space. The Whispering Stones ravine yawned before them, a gash in the planet's crust carved through black, glossy rock. The canyon walls rose hundreds of meters on either side, so tall their tops were lost in the permanent haze. The stone looked wet, slick with some mineral sheen made it reflect light like oiled metal. Stone felt the temperature drop immediately. The jungle's oppressive heat gave way to a bone-deep chill rising from the canyon floor. His breath misted inside his helmet. "Comms check," he said. Static answered him. Dead air, broken by occasional bursts of white noise. Magnetic interference, Sparky reported, tapping his data pad. The Ironstone's playing hell with our signals. Short range only, and even that's spotty. Stone glanced at the tactical display on his forearm. The clean readout from 5 minutes ago had transformed into digital chaos, phantom contacts appearing and vanishing, elevation readings jumping by hundreds of meters, GPS coordinates flickering between coordinates light years apart. The mule rolled forward another few meters, then stopped. Stopped completely. Engine still running, but not moving. "Observer," Stone said carefully. "What's wrong?" Through the windshield, he could see XR frozen at the controls. The alien's eyes, those massive, faceted things, darted across the cabin's sensor displays. Hands off the levers. Breathing rapid and shallow. "Observer." Stone slammed his palm against the cab. "Move." I cannot." XR's voice cracked. "The sensor suite is malfunctioning. I am receiving conflicting data. The terrain mapping shows obstacles that do not exist. The thermal imaging shows heat signatures in every direction. I cannot determine safe passage. Use your eyes." "My species does not, we are not adapted for," the alien's voice climbed toward hysteria. "I require technological assistance. I cannot navigate blind." Stone swore. Viciously. The mule sat motionless in the center of the ravine's mouth, the worst possible position. Exposed on all sides. Trapped in a natural funnel where any attacker above would have perfect firing angles. "Sparky, get up there. You drive." "On it." The engineer started to dismount. The first plasma bolt struck the rock face 10 meters to their left. Superheated stone exploded into shrapnel, peppering the mule's armor with molten fragments. The shot's origin was invisible, no muzzle flash, no targeting laser. Only the hiss of vaporized stone and the acrid stench of burned minerals. Ambush. Vasquez threw herself flat behind a boulder. Contacts high. Multiple sniper positions. A second shot hit closer. The plasma punched through Sparky's shoulder pauldron like it was made of paper. The engineer screamed and tumbled off the mule's deck, hitting the ground hard. Stone was moving before Sparky finished falling. He grabbed the engineer's drag handle and hauled him toward the nearest cover, a cluster of boulders that offered at least the illusion of protection. Blood poured from Sparky's shoulder, black in the dim light. The plasma had cauterized as it burned, but the wound was ugly, deep, taking more meat than armor. Sparky. Status. I'm hit. The engineer's voice came through teeth gritted against pain. Shoulder cooked. Can still use the arm, but plasma fire intensified. The shots came from above and ahead, multiple positions among the cliff ledges. Stone counted muzzle signatures, 4, no, 5 shooters. Kryn infantry, probably. Elite troops with cloaking fields active, rendering them nearly invisible against the black stone. Vasquez returned fire. Lucille roared, spitting 8mm tungsten core rounds upward in long, disciplined bursts. Tracer fire lit the ravine like lightning. The bullet sparked off stone, ricocheted into darkness, achieved nothing. The Kryn shields held, absorbing the kinetic energy, diffusing it. Their shields are too strong. Vasquez ejected an empty magazine, slammed home a fresh one. We see a not punch through. Stone's mind raced through tactical options. They were pinned in a kill box. The mule sat exposed in the open, their only mobile cover. The ravine offered no alternate routes, sheer walls to either side, death ahead and behind. They could not advance. Could not retreat. Could only die slowly. Fall back to the mule. Stone ordered. Use it for cover. Observer. He pounded on the cab again. Reverse. Get us into the shadow of the cliff. Inside the cabin, XAR fumbled with the controls. Hands shaking so hard the alien could barely grip the levers. Smoke from the earlier hit had filled the cab, thin gray wisps curling through vents. XAR was coughing, eyes streaming, clearly unable to see through the haze and panic. The mule lurched. Forward. No. Reverse. Reverse. But XR's hands had found the wrong lever. The hydraulic bucket drive engaged instead of the transmission. The mule's front end lifted, bucket rising, and the entire machine rolled forward 3 meters. The right side wheel smashed through the ridge of stones where Vasquez had been building a firing position. Rocks scattered. Cover disappeared. Vasquez scrambled aside as her fortification collapsed. For 3 seconds, maybe 4, she was exposed. Standing in open ground. Silhouetted against the dark stone like a target in a shooting gallery. The plasma bolt hit her left thigh. Stone saw it happen in the stretched-out clarity of combat time. Saw the bolt's blue-white flash. Saw it punch through Vasquez's armor plate like wet cardboard. Saw the metal glow red, then white, then melt. Saw her leg buckle. Saw her fall. Her scream cut through the comm channel, raw and animal and wrong. Vasquez did not scream. Not ever. Not when she'd taken shrapnel in the spine at Kepler Station. Not when she'd walked 3 clicks with a broken ankle on Outreach 7. But she was screaming now. Stone ran. Not thinking. Pure reflex honed through decades of watching people die. He crossed open ground in 5 strides, grabbed Vasquez by her armor harness, and dragged her behind the mule's rear wheel. Plasma fire followed him. The air burned. The ground where he'd been standing a second ago turned to glass. Vasquez. Talk to me. Leg, she was gasping, fighting shock. Burn through. Ca not feel, Stone ripped open his med kit, found trauma foam, sprayed it directly into the wound. The foam expanded, sealing burnt flesh, stopping blood loss. Vasquez screamed again as the foam's chemical reaction burned almost as hot as the plasma. Through the mule's rear view camera display, Stone saw XR's face. The alien had turned to watch through the smoke. Those huge eyes focused on Vasquez. On her blood. On Stone's hands covered in it as he worked to keep her alive. For one long moment, their eyes met through the camera's lens. Stone slammed his fist against the cab's rear panel. Not a command. Not an order. A statement. This is your fault. XAR recoiled like he'd been struck. Colonel. Sparky's voice, tight with pain and fear. Ghost tanks incoming. I've got magnetic signatures, 3 of them, heavy armor, levitating. Stone's blood went cold. Ghost tanks. KRYN heavy armor. Equipped with plasma cannons capable of melting through reinforced bunkers. Against infantry, they were essentially invincible. He checked his ammunition. 3 magazines left. Vasquez was down. Sparky was wounded. XAR was useless. They were trapped in a stone coffin with walls 500 meters high. The math was simple, they could not fight through this. Could not win. Could only die. Unless, Stone opened a direct channel to XAR. Private frequency. Command override. Observer, he said. Voice calm. Artificially so. New orders. Mission parameters have changed. We're not capturing the Cascade prototype anymore. I do not understand, listen. We break through to Site 0. You get to the control console. You overload the facility's core. Turn it into an EMP bomb. Stone let the words sink in. The pulse will fry every piece of KRYN tech within 50 kilometers. Their tanks. Their weapons. Their communications. Everything. Silence. It will also destroy all of our equipment, XAR said slowly. The navigation systems. The orbital communications. The medical scanners for, a pause. For Sergeant Vasquez. Yes. We would be stranded. On a death world. With no means of calling for extraction. Yes. Another pause. Longer. Stone could hear XAR's ragged breathing over the channel. That is suicide, the alien whispered. Stone looked down at Vasquez. Her eyes were half closed, focused on some middle distance. Breathing shallow. Skin pale where it was not burned. She was dying. Not fast, but certain. It's the only play we have left, Stone said. So you going to drive that piece of junk through enemy fire. You going to reach the console. And you going to do your job. I cannot, you will. The words landed like stones. Because if you do not, Stone continued, Vasquez dies. Sparky dies. I die. And the KRNS win. They get the Cascade. They crack this sector wide open. Billions dead. The council falls. Everything we came here to prevent happens anyway. He leaned closer to the camera, close enough to see his own reflection in its lens. Your choice, observer. File a report later about proper protocols. Or save the galaxy now. Pick one. The comm went silent. Above them, the whine of repulsor drives grew louder. The ghost tanks were coming. Stone could see their shadows now, dark shapes moving against darker stone, floating like vengeful gods. He counted seconds. 5. 10. 15. The mule's engine revved. Gears engaged. The loader lurched forward, clumsy, jerking, but forward. I will do it, XAR said. His voice carried a brittleness Stone had never heard before. I will reach the console. I will activate the overload. Good. But Colonel, a pause. Sergeant Vasquez. She knows the score, Stone said. He glanced down at her. Her eyes had found his. Clear. Aware. Accepting. We all do. Stone reloaded his rifle. The ghost tanks were 100 meters out now. Maybe less. Time had stopped meaning anything. Sparky, he called. Can you walk? Yeah. The engineer struggled upright, cradling his wounded shoulder. Yeah, I can walk. Good. Because we're about to run. Stone hoisted Vasquez across his shoulders in a fireman's carry. She was heavy, armor, gear, weapons, but he carried heavier. He'd carried bodies before. This time, at least, she was still breathing. The mule accelerated. XAR was driving like a maniac now, all hesitation burned away by desperation. The loader roared forward into the ravine's throat, trailing smoke and sparks. Stone ran after it. Toward the kill zone. Toward Site Zero. Toward whatever hell waited at the end of this stone corridor. Behind them, the ghost tanks opened fire. The race to the end of the world had begun. Chapter 3, Zero Horizon. Stone's last smoke charge detonated against the ravine wall in a cloud of gray-white chemical fog. The phosphorus burned hot enough to bloom on thermal scopes, painting false heat signatures across every KRYN targeting system still operational. It bought them seconds. 30 at most. Go. He bellowed into the calm. Ram it through. The mule's diesel engine screamed, a sound Stone had never heard the old loader make before. XAR must have buried the throttle, because the machine exploded out of the stone corridor like a shell from a gun. The loader's frame shuddered, throwing off pieces of damaged armor plate as it clawed across broken ground. Sparky clung to the running board, his wounded shoulder pressed against the roll cage, firing his rifle one-handed at anything moving on the cliff ledges above. Stone ran behind them, Vasquez's weight distributed across his shoulders. Every step drove spikes of pain through his knees, but he carried wounded before. Would carry them again. The ghost tanks were somewhere in the smoke behind them, their plasma cannons charging, but pursuit meant nothing if they did not reach the objective. The ravine spat them onto open ground. Stone's first impression was of scale, massive, overwhelming. The crash site sprawled across a clearing 300 meters wide, carved from the jungle by violence. Trees lay flattened in concentric rings radiating from a central impact crater. The council transport had come down hard enough to vaporize Stone, leaving a depression filled with cooling slag. At the crater's edge, half buried in the torn earth, lay the transport's cargo section. The heavy armor container holding the Cascade prototype had survived the impact intact, torn free from the fuselage by the crash's force. It squatted like a black monolith, 3 meters tall and twice as wide, its titanium shell unmarked by the destruction surrounding it. And around it, arranged in a perfect tactical semicircle, sat 12 KRYN ghost tanks. The machines hovered a meter off the ground, their white and gold armor gleaming with an obscene cleanliness in the dim light. Repulsor fields hummed beneath each chassis, distorting the air into liquid shimmer. The tank's main guns tracked slowly across firing arcs, plasma coils glowing blue at their hearts. Between the tanks and the container, KRYN technicians worked. 4 of them, encased in powered exoskeletons, wielded industrial cutting lasers. The beams played across the container's access panel, scoring lines of molten metal. They were methodical, precise, opening the locks one at a time rather than risking damage to the cargo inside. Above it stood Warlord KRYN himself. Stone had seen intelligence photos, but images could not capture the reality. The Warlord's Seraphim armor was a 3-meter monument to technological supremacy. White plating edged in gold filigree, every surface polished to mirror brightness. The suit floated without visible means of support, hovering like a vengeful angel above the battle space. Where the suit's helmet should have been, a seamless faceplate reflected the world in perfect clarity, showing nothing of the pilot within. The Warlord's synthesized voice carried across the clearing, addressing his technicians in flat, emotionless syllables. Stone could not understand the language, but he recognized the tone. Progress reports. Efficiency metrics. The voice of someone cataloging a resource extraction operation. Colonel. Sparky's voice crackled over the comm, tight with pain and something else. Fear, the engineer never admitted to feeling. They have not seen us yet. We could, they've seen us, Stone interrupted. He watched one of the ghost tanks rotate its turret toward the mule. Watched it track, acquire, and stop. The plasma coil powered down. They've not firing. Why the hell not? Stone's eyes found the container again. Found the technician still cutting. Found the Cascade prototype inside, its containment already failing. Because they're afraid of hitting their prize, he said. Understanding crashed through him like cold water. They would not risk firing near the container. Not while it's unstable. The tactical situation inverted itself in his mind. The KRNS had overwhelming firepower, enough to vaporize the mule and everyone in it. But they were paralyzed by their own caution, unwilling to endanger the device they'd come to steal. Which meant the humans had one chance. Stone keyed the command channel. Direct line to XAR. The alien's breathing came through ragged, hitching with terror. Observer, Stone said. Voice iron. You going to drive straight at them? What? No, I cannot, yes. You can. Stone adjusted Vasquez on his shoulders, freeing one hand to point at the container. They would not fire. They not risk it. You going to ram their formation, and you going to get us to that terminal. Understand? Silence. Stone could hear XAR hyperventilating inside the cab. Observer. This is our only shot. You do this, or we die here. Choose. The mule's engine note changed. Rose higher. The loader's frame vibrated so hard Stone could see it shaking from 50 meters away. XAR screamed something in his own language, a string of syllables high and keening, full of vowels humans could not shape. It sounded like a prayer or a curse or both. The mule launched forward. Stone ran in its wake, boots hammering against packed earth. Ahead, the KRYN formation reacted with mechanical precision. Tanks pivoted. Turrets tracked. Targeting lasers painted the mule's cab in dancing red dots. But they did not fire. The mule roared across open ground, trailing black smoke and hydraulic fluid. Sparky hooped, a sound halfway between laughter and hysteria, and emptied his magazine at the nearest tank. The bullet sparked off armor, achieving nothing except drawing attention. 50 meters from the container, a ghost tank moved to intercept. The machine slid sideways on its repulsor field, positioning itself in the mule's path. Its plasma coil blazed bright, capacitors charging. XAR did not break. The alien yanked the wheel hard right, sending the mule into a skidding turn. The loader's rear end swung wide, spraying gravel. Stone watched the ghost tank's turret try to track, but XAR had already corrected, fishtailing left. The mule wove through the formation like a drunk threading a needle, purely by luck or panic or some combination thereof. A KRYN infantryman stepped into the mule's path, power armor gleaming, raising a rifle. XAR ran him down. The alien did not brake, did not swerve. The mule's front bumper caught the soldier center mass and sent him spinning into the air. The KRYN crashed into one of his own technicians, and both went down in a tangle of armor and cutting tools. The mule reached the container. XAR did not slow down. The loader hit the titanium wall at 30 kilometers an hour. Metal screamed. The mule's bumper crumpled, its hood buckling. The windshield spider webbed from the impact. But the machine's momentum died against the container's mass, and the loader settled with a final shudder, its engines still running. Stone covered the last 20 meters in seconds. He dumped Vasquez behind the container, using its bulk as cover, and turned to survey the situation. The KRNS were regrouping. The formation had scattered, tanks repositioning to surround the container. Infantry moved in from the perimeter, closing the noose. Warlord Kryn descended from his overwatch position, seraphim armor gliding toward the container with terrible grace. Sparky. Stone grabbed the engineer as he tumbled off the running board. Suppressing fire. Keep them back. On it. Sparky dropped behind the mule's wheel, braced his rifle across the tire, and opened up. The engineer's fire was erratic, his wounded shoulder limiting his aim, but it forced the Kryn infantry to seek cover. Stone pounded on the mule's driver's side door. Through the cracked windshield, he could see XAR hunched over the controls, thorax heaving with panicked breaths. Observer. The terminal. Access it now. XAR moved like a puppet with cut strings. The alien's door opened, and he half fell, half climbed out of the cab. Stone grabbed him before he could collapse, shoving him toward the container's side panel. Plasma fire screamed past overhead. Stone felt the heat wash over his armor, smelled ozone and burned carbon. A bolt struck the container's surface 3 meters away, superheating the titanium to white-hot brilliance. The metal held, but Stone could see it deform, buckling inward from thermal stress. Move, he roared. XR scrambled along the container's base, those long limbs carrying him with surprising speed when terror provided motivation. The access terminal was set into the container's side, a flat panel protected by an armored cowling. Standard Council design. Biometric locks. XAR would have access codes, but he'd need to interface directly. Another plasma bolt shattered the mule's remaining side window. Glass exploded inward, and XAR shrieked as shards peppered his exposed chitin. Purple blood, darker than human red, welled from a dozen shallow cuts. Ignore it. Stone positioned himself between XAR and the incoming fire, making his body a shield. Get the terminal open. XAR's four-fingered hands found the panel. Pulled the cowling aside. Exposed the interface beneath, a touchscreen surrounded by biometric scanners. The alien's hands shook so badly his first attempt at the DNA reader failed. Steady, Stone said. Kept his voice level despite plasma fire cooking the air around them. Slow breath. Do it right. XAR pressed his palm flat against the scanner. Held it there. A green light pulsed, reading the alien's genetic code, cross-referencing it against authorized personnel lists. 3 seconds passed. 5. The light turned blue. Access granted. Code, XAR whispered. His fingers danced across the screen, entering a sequence too fast for Stone to track. Emergency protocol. Cascade overload sequence. Each word came clipped, robotic, the alien reciting from memory. Remove core limiters. Disable fail-safes. Activate entropic field at maximum radius. A warning klaxon blared from the container's interior. Red lights began strobing along its upper edge. Final confirmation required, XAR said. His hand hovered over the screen, trembling. This action cannot be reversed. All technology within 50 kilometers will be rendered inoperative. Including, do it, Stone said. XAR's finger fell. The world went silent. Not quiet. Silent. The difference absolute. Every artificial sound, every engine hum, every repulsor field, every power system, died in the same instant. Stone's helmet systems flickered and went dark. His tactical display went dead. Even the chronometer on his wrist stopped ticking. Above them, the ghost tanks fell. 12 multi-ton war machines, suspended by anti-gravity fields, crashed to Earth simultaneously. The impact thundered across the clearing like artillery strikes. Stone felt the ground shake beneath his boots. One tank landed on its turret, the structure crumpling under the machine's weight. Another hit edge first, tipped, and rolled. A third pancaked flat, crushing its own undercarriage. Warlord Kryn's Seraphim armor dropped like a stone. The warlord had been hovering 5 meters up. The fall should have killed him. The armor hit the ground hard enough to crater the earth, but the suit's structure held, absorbing the impact. It stood there, locked in place, a golden statue frozen mid-descent. Silence pressed against Stone's eardrums. His ears rang from the sudden absence of noise. Around the clearing, Kryn soldiers stumbled and fell, their powered exoskeletons transformed into dead weight. The cutting lasers went dark. The technicians collapsed, trapped in armor now heavier than their strength could move. Stone's rifle was dead in his hands, the electronic scope and targeting assist fried by the pulse. But the mechanical trigger still functioned. The firing pin still worked. Chemical propellant did not care about entropy fields. He raised the weapon and squeezed the trigger. The shot cracked across the silent battlefield, obscenely loud. The bullet caught a Kryn technician in the faceplate, punching through and dropping him. Weapons free. Stone bellowed. Light them up. Sparky opened fire from behind the mule's wheel. Vasquez, semi-conscious but still combat-capable through sheer spite, rolled onto her stomach and triggered a burst from her sidearm. The Kryns, trapped in their useless armor, died without firing a shot. It was a slaughter. A massacre. Stone moved through the killing ground with mechanical efficiency, putting rounds into every target presenting itself. The Kryns tried to surrender, tried to flee, tried to pry themselves free from their technological coffins. It made no difference. They'd come to Tartarus IV with overwhelming firepower, confident in their superiority. Now they were paying for that arrogance with their lives. Stone reached Warlord Kryn's frozen armor. The Seraphim suit stood motionless, its systems dead. Through the reflective faceplate, Stone could see nothing, no eyes, no face, no humanity. The suit did not respond when he approached. Did not move when he pressed his rifle's barrel against where the cockpit seals met. He pulled the trigger. The bullet punched through the gap, and a thin stream of purple fluid leaked out. The suit settled, shifting slightly on its suspension. Whatever had been inside, piloting, commanding, directing the assault, was dead now. Stone turned away. The clearing was quiet again. Dead Kryns lay scattered among their disabled machines. The ghost tanks squatted like monuments to technological hubris, expensive tombs for their crews. Sparky whooped, his voice raw and triumphant. We did it. The ground shook. Not from falling tanks. This was different. Rhythmic. Regular. The vibration traveled up through Stone's boots, into his bones. He felt earthquakes before, and this was not one. Earthquakes were chaotic, unpredictable. This was footsteps. Stone's water bottle, clipped to his belt, rippled. The liquid surface formed concentric circles spreading from the center. Each ripple coincided with another tremor. Another step. Getting closer. Sparky, Stone said carefully. Did you shut down the mule? The engineer's face went pale. Oh. Oh, hell. The mule's diesel engine was still running. Still idling at its characteristic chugging rhythm. Still broadcasting a low-frequency rumble across the entire area. The jungle at the clearing's edge exploded. Trees, massive trunks thick as pillars, splintered like kindling. Something vast tore through the vegetation, scattering branches and leaving a wake of destruction. Stone caught glimpses through the chaos, black chitin, segmented like an insect but scaled up to monstrous proportions. Plates overlapping in layers, each one 2 meters across. Limbs thick as ship's masts. The Titan of Tartarus emerged into the light. Stone had seen the briefing files. Had studied the grainy surveillance photos. Had read the ecological surveys describing an apex predator evolved to dominate a death world. None of it prepared him for the reality. The thing stood as tall as a 3-story building. 6 legs, each ending in claws sharp enough to carve stone. A body covered in armor plate so thick stone could see light refracting through its crystalline structure. The head was a nightmare of overlapping mandibles surrounding a mouth large enough to swallow the mule whole. And it was angry. The Titan's roar shook the air, a sound felt more than heard, vibrating in Stone's chest cavity. The creature's eyes, clusters of them, arranged in banks across its skull, fixed on the source of the irritating noise. On the mule. Open fire. Stone raised his rifle, sighted on the nearest eye cluster, and pulled the trigger. The bullet hit. Stone watched it strike dead center. Watched it spark off the chitin. Watched it ricochet harmlessly into the sky. The Titan did not even flinch. Sparky's rifle roared. Vasquez added her fire. 3 streams of tungsten core ammunition converged on the monster, aiming for joints, gaps in armor, anything vulnerable. The rounds achieved nothing except scratching the surface layer of chitin. It's not working. Sparky screamed. Colonel, we see not, the Titan charged. For something so massive, it moved with terrifying speed. 6 legs pistoned in coordinated rhythm, launching the creature across the clearing in seconds. It ignored the disabled ghost tanks, they produced no sound, emitted no heat, registered as inanimate obstacles. It ignored the dead Krwns. It ignored the humans. It went straight for the mule. XR, still standing next to the container, watched the Titan approach with the paralyzed horror of a mouse facing a snake. The alien's legs refused to move, locked by primal terror. Observer. Stone grabbed XR's arm, hauled him toward the container's far side. Get to cover. Too late. The Titan's club tail, a solid mass of bone and chitin weighing tons, swept across the clearing in a horizontal arc. The blow caught the mule broadside. The impact sounded like a bomb detonating. The loader flew sideways, tumbling end over end, shedding parts as it went. The machine crashed onto its side 10 meters away, wheels still spinning, engine still somehow running. The tail's backswing clipped the container. Stone felt the container shift, sliding half a meter across the ground from the impact's force. He lost his grip on XAR, stumbled, caught himself. The Titan roared again. Closer now. Close enough for Stone to smell it, a reek of decay and ancient earth, something primal and wrong. Stone's hand found the shaped charge on his belt. The explosive was designed to penetrate armor, punch through steel plate and concrete, focus the blast into a narrow cone. But it required direct contact to work. Had to be placed against the target, not thrown or shot. Useless at range. He triggered a flare instead, the brightest he carried. White phosphorus bloomed 50 meters away, burning at 3,000 degrees. The Titan's eyes tracked the movement, locked onto the source of light and heat. And charged at Stone. Stone ran. Not away. Toward. He needed the creature close, needed it focused on him, needed to buy time for his squad to regroup. The Titan's mandibles snapped at him. Stone dove aside, hit the ground rolling, came up firing. Emptied his magazine into the creature's mouth. The bullets ricocheted off internal armor, achieving nothing. The Titan's head swung around. Stone saw it coming, a wall of bone and chitin moving with the force of a battering ram. He tried to dodge, but the creature was too fast. The impact launched him 30 meters. Stone flew through the air, weightless. His vision tunneled. Sound became distant. He hit something hard, the transport fuselage's wreckage, and the world went white with pain. Darkness crept in from the edges. He fought it. Forced his eyes to focus. Found himself pinned beneath a section of hull plating, the metal edge pressing against his chest. Could not move. Could not breathe properly. His ribs screamed protest with each shallow gasp. The shaped charge was still on his belt. Still armed. Still useless. Through blurred vision, Stone watched the Titan turn away from him. Watched it lumber toward the overturned mule, drawn by the diesel's insistent rumble. Watched it raise a massive claw. To his left, Vasquez lay unconscious, her wounded leg bent at an unnatural angle. Sparky sat against a boulder, cradling his head, clearly concussed. They beaten the KR-1S. Beaten the best the galaxy's technology could throw at them. Survived plasma and death and impossible odds. And now they were going to die because a big animal was annoyed by engine noise. The irony would have been funny if Stone were not drowning in his own blood. The Titan loomed over the mule. Inside the cab, visible through the cracked windshield, XR fumbled with the controls. The alien was trying to move the loader, trying to escape, but the machine was on its side. The wheels spun uselessly. Stone's hand found his sidearm. Pulled it free. Checked the magazine. 3 rounds left. 3 bullets against a monster the size of a building. He aimed at the Titan's eye cluster anyway. Because if he was going to die, he'd die fighting. The Titan raised its claw for the killing blow. An XAR, trembling and covered in blood and oil, gripped the mule's levers with all 4 hands. The weakest link. The liability. The bureaucrat who complained about turbulence and vibration and protocol violations. The only one left with any chance of making a difference. Stone's vision faded to a pinpoint. He watched XR's face through the mule's windshield. Watched the alien make his choice. And then the darkness took him. Chapter 4, The Industrial Argument. XR's world narrowed to a single point of crystalline clarity. Through the mule's cracked windshield, spiderwebbed with fractures, streaked with hydraulic fluid and the purple of his own blood, he watched Colonel Stone lie pinned beneath twisted metal. The human's chest rose and fell in shallow gasps. One arm stretched toward the Titan, fingers wrapped around something cylindrical. The shaped charge. Useless. Too far from the target to matter. The Titan loomed over Stone like a monument to inevitable death. Its claw rose, slow, deliberate, blotting out what little light filtered through Tartarus 4's perpetual haze. The creature was in no hurry. It had won. The irritating noise source was about to be silenced forever. XR's hands trembled on the mule's levers. His thorax heaved, sucking air through mandibles never designed for this much exertion. Every joint in his body screamed. The cuts from the shattered window wept purple across his lavender chitin. He was covered in filth, diesel exhaust, mud, glass shards, and the acrid residue of plasma fire. He was terrified. But beneath the terror, something else stirred. Something cold and analytical. The same mental framework he used to optimize supply chain logistics and calculate resource allocation projections. The observer's training. The ability to reduce chaos to variables, to see problems as equations requiring solutions. Engineer Lee's voice echoed in his memory, the mule AI not a weapon, observer. She's a tool. You want her to fight? You rethinking wrong. Make her work. XR's faceted eyes tracked across the battlefield. Sparky Lee slumped against a boulder, semi-conscious. Sergeant Vasquez lay motionless, her leg twisted. The KRYN tanks were silent monuments, their crews dead. The Cascade container squatted like a tombstone marking the death of technology. And the mule, damaged, smoking, on its side, still ran. The engine coughed, sputtered, but refused to die. The only functioning machine left in 50 kilometers. XR's fingers found the bucket control lever. His mind calculated angles, weight distribution, torque requirements. The mule weighed 4 tons. Lying on its side, the center of gravity was offset. If he activated the hydraulic boom at maximum pressure, pushed against the ground at the correct angle, the mathematics clicked into place. XAR yanked the lever. The hydraulic system screamed. Fluid rushed through lines, pressurizing pistons. The bucket boom, designed to lift 3 tons of rubble, extended with industrial force, punching into the earth. The mule's frame groaned. Metal protested. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The boom pushed harder. The mule tipped. Slowly. Inexorably. The physics were simple, force applied at the correct vector would overcome resistance. The loader rolled onto its side, hesitated at the balance point, and crashed down onto its wheels. The impact jarred every bolt and weld. The windshield's remaining glass finally gave up, exploding inward in a shower of crystalline fragments. XR did not flinch. His hands were already moving to the throttle and transmission. The mule sat upright. Engine running. Operational. Not a weapon. A tool. The Titan heard the noise. Its massive head swiveled, compound eyes refocusing, mandibles clicking in confusion. The irritating sound had moved. The prey was somewhere else now. The creature began to turn, pivoting on legs thick as tree trunks. XAR floored the accelerator. The mule responded with a roar. Black smoke belched from the exhaust. The transmission engaged, gears meshing with a sound like grinding teeth. The loader lurched forward, picking up speed. 5 kilometers per hour. 10. 15. Not fast. But fast enough. The mule was not built for grace or agility. It was built to move heavy loads across difficult terrain, to absorb punishment, to work when everything else failed. 4 tons of steel and diesel and human engineering, crude and brutal and utterly reliable. XAR aimed it at the Titan's rear support leg and did not deviate. The universe compressed to a single moment, the mule's mass accelerating toward an immovable target. XAR's training screamed at him to brake, to avoid collision, to preserve the valuable equipment. Every instinct cultivated by a lifetime in sterile laboratories and climate-controlled offices demanded he stop this insanity. He ignored it. The mule hit the Titan's leg at 20 kilometers per hour. The impact sounded like a ship collision. Metal crumpled. The mule's front bumper, already damaged, folded completely. The hood buckled. The collision transferred energy through the loader's frame, rattling XAR's bones inside his chitinous shell. But the Titan weighed 20 tons. The mule's 4 tons were nothing. Except XAR had not been trying to knock the creature down. He'd been trying to shift its center of gravity. The Titan's rear leg buckled. Not from damage, from physics. The creature had been pivoting, weight distributed unevenly as it turned. The mule's impact arrived at the exact moment when the Titan's balance was most precarious. The leg gave, sliding sideways. The monster teetered, compensating, trying to redistribute its mass. And exposed its belly. The Titan roared, a sound XR registered not as noise but as vibration traveling through the mule's chassis into his hands. The creature decided the machine was the greater threat. It lowered its massive body, intending to crush the irritating metal insect beneath its armored bulk. XR's hands moved before conscious thought finished forming. Left hand, bucket control. Right hand, pressure release valve. Both levers yanked to maximum extension. The mule's hydraulic forks, designed to lift shipping containers and construction materials, shot upward. They caught the Titan's descending mass, wedging under the overlapping chitin plates protecting the creature's abdomen. Metal screamed. Hydraulics whined. The mule transformed from vehicle to jack, its frame bearing impossible weight. The engine's note changed. Rose to a screaming pitch. The tachometer needle buried itself in the red zone. Somewhere beneath the hood, pistons hammered at speeds they were never designed to sustain. The entire loader vibrated so hard XR's vision blurred. But the forks held. The Titan weighed tons. The mule's hydraulic system was rated for 3 tons maximum load. The mathematics did not work. The loader should have collapsed, its frame shattering under stress exceeding design parameters by an order of magnitude. It did not. Because Sparky Lee had rebuilt this machine 100 times. Had replaced every weak point with over-engineered components. Had added reinforcements and redundancies and backup systems. Had poured decades of experience into making one simple promise: this machine will not fail when you need it. The mule held. XR's faceted eyes tracked the pressure gauges. The needles climbed into danger zones. Red warning lights blazed across the dashboard. Temperature readings spiked. The hydraulic system was seconds from catastrophic failure. The main pressure line, already stressed beyond tolerance, gave first. The hose burst with the sound of a gunshot. High-pressure hydraulic fluid, heated to near boiling by friction and compression, erupted from the severed line. The spray filled the cabin, painting everything black. The fluid hit XR full in the chest and face, scalding hot, reeking of petroleum and burned rubber. XR screamed. The oil invaded his spiracles, his mandibles, coating his eyes in greasy film. It burned where it touched the cuts in his chitin. His entire world became hot darkness and the overwhelming stench of machinery. His hands did not release the levers. Every molecule of his being wanted to let go. To stumble from the cabin. To find clean air and clear water. To escape the horrifying, filthy embrace of this brutal machine. But Stone was dying. Vasquez was unconscious. Sparky was concussed. The entire squad, these impossible, infuriating, magnificent humans, had dragged him through hell. Had protected him when his arrogance nearly killed them. Had bled for him. Had taught him to drive, to curse, to survive. Had made him pack. XR's fingers tightened on the levers. Through the oil coating his eyes, he could see shapes. The Titan's bulk suspended above him. The soft tissue between armor plates, exposed as the creature reflexively arched away from the pressure, trying to find footing. And Stone, still pinned, still alive, still clutching the charge. XR sucked burning air through fouled spiracles and screamed, "Stone. Now!" His voice did not sound like his own. No synthetic modulation, no bureaucratic precision. Raw and ragged and full of rage. Human. Or close enough. Through the oil-streaked windshield, XR watched Stone move. The Colonel, broken, bleeding, pinned by metal, rolled. Pain etched lines across his face, but his hands were steady. He pulled something from the shaped charge. A pin. The device armed with a soft click XR heard even over the mule's dying engine. Stone rolled under the suspended Titan. Under tons of chitinous armor held aloft by hydraulics screaming their last. Into the killing zone where one failure would crush him instantly. He slammed the charge against exposed flesh. The magnetic plate engaged. The shaped charge adhered to the Titan's belly, invisible under the creature's bulk. "Drop it." Stone's voice, raw, desperate, commanding. XR yanked the pressure release. The hydraulic forks collapsed. The mule's suspension groaned as tons of weight transferred off the jacks. The Titan dropped, belly first, onto the ground. Onto the charge. The creature's own armor plates snapped shut, sealing over the explosive, containing it in a coffin of biological steel. For one frozen second, nothing happened. The shaped charge detonated. The explosion was muffled, a deep, wet thump more felt than heard. No fireball. No shrapnel. The Titan's chitin plates held, containing the blast. But shaped charges did not explode outward. They focused energy inward, channeling it into a narrow cone of superheated metal and pressure. Inside the Titan's body cavity, that cone met soft tissue. The creature's eyes, compound structures arranged in clusters, went dark. One by one, like lights switching off. The massive legs collapsed, folding underneath the bulk. The head settled forward, mandibles scraping stone. A sound escaped the Titan's throat, not a roar, but a sigh. Air leaving dead lungs. The monster was dead before its body finished falling. Silence crashed across the battlefield. The mule's engine finally died, coughing its last. XAR sat in the cabin, hands still gripping levers connected to nothing. Oil dripped from his chin. His entire body shook, adrenaline poisoning, exhaustion, and something else he could not name. Through the shattered windshield, he watched Stone drag himself from beneath the Titan's corpse. Watched Sparky stagger upright, eyes unfocused but alive. Watched Vasquez roll onto her side, machine gun still clutched in white-knuckled hands. They survived. XAR tried to open the door. His hands would not cooperate. The simple act of releasing the latch required coordination his nervous system could no longer provide. He sat there, helpless, coated in oil and blood and shame. The door opened from outside. Vasquez stood there, limping, bleeding, leaning on her rifle like a crutch. She did not speak. Did not crack a joke. She reached in, wrapped one massive hand around XAR's thin arm, and pulled him from the wreckage. XAR collapsed. His legs gave out, hollow bones and atrophied muscles unable to support his weight. He sprawled in the dirt, certain he was about to be mocked, to have his failure catalogued and documented. Vasquez knelt beside him. Her free hand, the one not keeping her upright, reached toward his face. XAR flinched, but she was gentle. She wiped oil from his eyes. Cleaned his spiracles so he could breathe. Her movements were careful, almost tender. "You held," she said. Her voice was rough, thick with pain and exhaustion. "When it mattered. You held." XAR tried to respond. Produced only a wheeze. "Rest," Vasquez said. She was not smiling. Was not laughing at him. She was looking at him the same way she looked at Stone. Like he was one of them. "You earned it, grasshopper." Stone limped over. The colonel was a mess, ribs clearly broken, face pale with shock. But his eyes were clear. He studied XAR for a long moment, expression unreadable. "Good work, observer," Stone said. 2 words. Delivered flat, without inflection. XAR's spiracles clogged. Not with oil. With something else. He spent his life chasing accolades from the council, seeking approval from bureaucrats who measured worth in efficiency metrics and cost-benefit analyses. He'd written countless reports detailing his competence, documented his value according to approved frameworks. None of it had meant anything. But these 2 words, delivered by a broken human in the aftermath of hell, meant everything. Sparky arrived, swaying but functional. The engineer took one look at XAR, at the oil coating his chitin, and grinned. "Brother of oil," he said. "Welcome to the family." XAR lay in the dirt and filth and blood. His body was ruined. His dignity was shattered. His carefully maintained appearance was destroyed beyond recognition. He'd never been cleaner. The white hall of the council hurt XAR's eyes. After weeks on Tartarus 4, weeks of gray skies and acid rain and the mule's diesel exhaust, the sterile brightness was physically painful. Light poured from everywhere and nowhere, shadowless and artificial. The air smelled of synthetic lavender and expensive antiseptic. His chitin itched beneath the ceremonial robes they forced him to wear. High Exarch Val Kor Su sat on his levitating throne, pearlescent chitin polished to mirror brightness. Perfect. Untouched. Exactly as XAR remembered from a lifetime ago. The Exarch's voice droned through XR's translator, flat and emotionless. Total material losses exceed 300 billion credits. The Cascade prototype, destroyed. Observer XR's Aegis suit, destroyed. Site 0 infrastructure, compromised. KRYN military assets, damaged beyond salvage. Local megafauna specimen, terminated without authorization. Stone stood beside XAR, arms crossed. The Colonel's ribs were still taped. Vasquez leaned on a cane. Sparky was trying not to fidget with his sling. They saved the sector. Stopped the KRYNS from weaponizing entropy itself. Survived impossible odds. And Val Kor Su was billing them for property damage. The Council acknowledges no fault on behalf of KRYN Empire forces, the Exarch continued. Their presence was legally authorized under salvage rights. Human intervention was. He paused, consulting a datapad. Economically inefficient. Payment for services rendered, denied. Compensation for losses, required. XAR listened to the verdict with the part of his mind trained in council procedure. He understood the logic. The Cascade's value exceeded the worth of an entire solar system. The Aegis suit represented cutting-edge technology. The Titan had been the last breeding male of its species, priceless from a biodiversity standpoint. By pure cost-benefit analysis, their mission was a fiscal disaster. Val Kor Su turned his monocle toward XAR. Observer XAR. You will sign this report condemning the humans' reckless disregard for council property. Your testimony will be entered into. XAR started laughing. The sound erupted from his throat, harsh, barking, utterly inappropriate for the sacred halls. It was Vasquez's laugh. Sparky's laugh. Human. Val Kor Su stopped mid-sentence. Observer, you will compose yourself. XAR reached up and tore the ceremonial robe off. The expensive star silk ripped like tissue. Underneath, he wore Sparky's old jumpsuit. Stained with oil. Patched with duct tape. Reeking of diesel and sweat and honest labor. He refused to wash it. Refused to change it. Let the med techs treat his wounds through the fabric rather than remove it. It was his armor now. XAR walked toward Val Kor Su's pristine white table. Reached into the jumpsuit's pocket. His fingers found the wrench, battered, rusty, given to him by Sparky with the simple instruction, keep it. Never know when you need to fix something. XAR raised the tool. Val Kor Su's eyes widened, the first genuine emotion XAR had ever seen him display. The wrench fell. It hit the table with a crash loud enough to make the assembled council flinch. The impact gouged the perfect surface, leaving a deep scratch. Oil from the wrench spread in a dark stain across the white material, black against sterile brightness, impossible to ignore. You rule the galaxy, XAR said. His voice was steady. Clear. But you cannot hold a hammer. Val Kor Su stared at the oil stain like it was a blasphemy given form. I quit, XAR said. He turned. Walked past Stone, who was trying very hard not to smile. Past Vasquez, who gave him a sharp nod of approval. Past Sparky, who whispered, "Damn right, brother." XR walked out of the White Hall. Away from the sterile light and synthetic air. Away from a lifetime of reports and protocols and efficient resource allocation. Toward the humans. Toward the pack. Behind him, the council sat in shocked silence, staring at the oil stain on their perfect table. The only real thing in the room.